What is going on today, guys? Welcome back to the channel and today's video. It's been a little bit since our turbo unboxing and unveiling that we are going turbo. We are unfortunately still waiting on quite a few parts. The turbo itself we're waiting on, and we're still waiting on some pretty special goodies for the wastegate setup and stuff like that, which will be in a video way later on. There's been definitely enough work on it to kind of have a quick little update, and today's topic, as you can see by the title, is going to be all the custom mounts, or pretty much a majority of the custom mounts that we're gonna need for our case in order to turbo the car. Now, in a lot of cases you're probably gonna be just fine with what's provided in the kit, but running the true focus valve bash bar, that takes out a lot of mounting places for almost every turbo kit I can think of, but most of them at least. Then, not to knock the JDL kit, but one of the things I didn't like about that kit was just how it generally mounts. I just think that the mount that it's hooked up to, which I'll show you right now, this bottom mount, when you actually take it off and get to look at what it is just, you know, a pretty flimsy piece of two pieces actually of flattened steel, and this is the bottom support for your intercooler. Now, beyond that, up top I believe they give you one strip of metal to tie into here. So I mean, it's not bad, but it's also, in my opinion, not the best. And as said, I'm not pointing that to knock JDL, because on the full-blown kit it's also not perfect for our situation. But I am just making the point that you might want to make your own custom mounts like we're going to go over today. In some situations, the kit really is bare bones, and I think both companies do expect you to kind of expand on your build as you go in time. At least that's kind of what I see in their intent in the kits, especially in the base kits, that this is where you start and build on this as you go in the future. Because obviously your car evolves, some stuff fits now, some stuff might not fit later, etc., etc. So the first thing we're going to get into real quick is the catch can. We actually have a new catch can now. This is the full-blown universal catch can actually, and I got their universal one because, once again, if I were to get their FRS catered one, it actually would not fit. The reason why it won't fit is because we run the Odyssey batteries, the LP680s, and the mount that full blown uses for the catch can is based off of, I believe, an OEM size battery, or at least width wise for sure, based on that much battery size. So I had to custom make my own tie down, which you can see branches off. Sorry, grab the light so we can actually see here. So the tie down obviously goes into the battery tray. It goes out to a cup and bung setup, which RAD Dan, the professional drifter, formula drift driver, he sells these on his website. I think they're like some of the coolest, niftiest things, and like as a beginner welder and that kind of thing, like this has kind of helped me expand my ideas in certain ways and kind of helped me do things that are a little more complicated but pretty easy. Just not having like a full tap and die setup, it's super convenient being able to get these are M8 bungs and then caps that just thread right into them. So the tie down is separate, so I can run the battery tie down without the oil catch can if I need to. I figured that was kind of important, and that's why I use this here. Now, I got these mounts, or these cup and bungs, a little bit later than when I started the project. Otherwise I would have made this probably a cup and bung here and bolt in over there. But either which way, I was just using scrap metal I had in the bin, made up a support beam that comes off of the, whatever you want to call that, power brace, strut tower brace, not even sure. Made a beam out of 1/8 inch steel, this is all steel, and then put a 90, and unfortunately my angles were off because it's not a true 90 once you start incorporating this angle. And then on the back of this plate, I riv nutted, or nut-sorted actually, I think is the right term, to, I believe these are M6. So now, even with our pretty custom catch can, we can bolt it directly into the car. So let's go ahead and do that. So that's it for the catch can setup. As you can see, I can still fit a wrench behind it even with the filter on it. So that's pretty convenient to get in and out. And then when I'm going to be draining it, what I think I'm going to do is make sure that when I make the lines, I make them long enough that what I can do is just unbolt the bracket, pull this up a little bit, and then drain it from the bottom. Just have it kind of, you know, swing this way, essentially. Have enough line in it to swing that way. So yeah, I think that's going to work out super good. So the next custom mount is totally kind of optional, especially since we don't have a boost gauge just yet. But somebody I've been working with on this turbo build almost right off the jump has been Treadstone Performance, who's down in Miami. One of my really good friends who, like, when I first got into motorsport, he was the first photographer I ever met. I remember buying pictures off of him, and just, like, you know, our relationship has blossomed over the years. Very first event. So it's really cool that now everything is coming full circle and I can buy products off of him, because it's very race car stuff, you know, that they sell. It's not exactly catered to any particular car in some cases, but they do sell a ton of different things. So just check them out and see, you know, if anything fits your build. So big shout out to them and big thanks to them for all their help so far. All the custom lines we're going to be making for this build are from Treadstone. But anyways, to get off my tangent, I won't have a boost gauge just yet. So all we're going to be doing is stealing, I believe, what is the vacuum off of the intake port before it gets to the brake booster. We're going to be teeing into it, essentially. This is just a really fancy tee, but the way that I mounted it was M6 nutserts once again. And those nutserts just so happen to fit in this perfectly to where you can get a bolt in it. So this is a bolt-in affair at this point. And I really dig it. I did it myself. I'm super proud that I didn't make it completely janky and, like, you know, completely crooked. And I think it's a pretty good shout out to Treadstone too, just, you know, kind of in your face. I just liked having the logo there. Alright, now we are leading to a prototype, which is very ugly right now, but I am thinking about running the boost controller right here. It's either going to be here, or I'm just going to tap into the pole again. And then we'll have the vacuum and also the boost controller relatively close to each other, and they'll kind of complement each other. I do want the boost controller showing because it's going to have some pretty dope fittings on it. So we will cross that bridge when we get there, but yeah, it's either going to be custom mount off of here, which I already don't like this one. I might make it something thicker or just cut it super short, or, like I said, go right into the bar. Obviously, some things are much easier to figure out when you actually have the part, so not having the boost controller with me, I'm kind of limited. I don't even know how big they are. That's why you see how massive this plate is. And if you know how big boost controllers are, you're probably laughing at me right now, I would imagine. Alright, so that's it for custom mount so far in the engine bay. Just the catch can, which was kind of a big one because the full-blown kit that we have, it kind of, you pretty much have to run vent to atmosphere. So this is a really good option for that, I believe. Just switch to an AN setup and, you know, just make it simple. Vacuum block, then boost controller somewhere. So the next custom mounts we're going to talk about are really the crown jewel, or I don't even know if that's the right term, but my absolute favorite piece of the car so far. So before we get into it, I just want to say a big shout out to Brake Bank for all their help with this particular piece, because, like, it's just beyond what I could have ever done. I came to them with just some metal and some ideas, and we cooked up some really cool shit. So this is gonna be my plug to them, because kind of like Treadstone, they helped me out quite a lot. And having the bash bars, it complicates a lot of things, although it does look cool and it protects a lot. It was also used essentially to mount anything you would ever put in the front area. So it deletes a lot of the ideas that a lot of these aftermarket companies had. So they helped me a ton in making a pretty cool setup that's relatively safe, and then also super functional, also super badass, and just flat out, I could have never done this with my flux welder in my wildest possible dreams. So let me go ahead and put the car back together, and I will show you what I'm talking about and what's on this table back here. So on the front of the car, we do have quite a lot of concerns, as I mentioned, since we don't have the OEM bash bar. tons of stuff used to bolt up into there. We're going to have intercooler piping going through here now. So a whole lot of things that used to work just flat out won't work. So it's going to have to be a custom situation like our oil cooler, which, like I mentioned, Brake Bank helped me out with. So let's check out what we got over here. First off is this bracket bar, I guess you could say, which was essentially inspired off of one of my friends on Instagram, Dan Southwell. He ended up putting tabs onto his bash bar, I believe very close to the same location to mount his intercooler. He also did a really sick oil cooler mount setup right here. So those are some things that I kept in mind when I went to Brake Bank, and this is very much inspired by him, so big shout out to Dan. He's got a lot of great videos on turbo stuff and just in general some like ridiculous driving in a NA, and then now he's turbo FRS. So yeah, big shout out to him. He was a big inspiration for how we kind of decided to do this. So that bar runs along. Once again, it's nut certed because I now have an addiction, and this bar here bolts into it so that it's the support brace for hanging the full-blown intercooler, which we're going to do right now. You can see how we built in the rake to the intercooler, like how it essentially slants. There's a nut cert on the tabs as well, which I can't get off right now. I'll just leave them in. So these are also bolt in. So it's super convenient. And then the reason why we're making everything bolt in is I did not want this bar to add any structure. And I think that that's something that Brake Bank agreed with, and something that also Dan did. His bar, or the way he mounts here, is also bolt in, so that if it ever does start putting pressure on that area, you know, in the event of a horrible crash, honestly, because it would take that to bend the straight bars. In that case, there's the way more likelihood that the bolts are just going to shear off. It's not going to, you know, like push back, which is what you kind of don't want. You want it to crimple. It's going to have a hard time crimpling this bar anyways. I feel bad for, you know, whoever ends up taking that hit, if that ever does happen, honestly. But regardless, even the sturdiest bar like this one will not save you entirely. They're typically meant to bend, so that's why we designed everything to be bolt-in. So let's go ahead and bolt this in, at least the first part, and then we will put the intercooler on and take a look at the other custom part, which I actually made myself. Alright, so now we are starting to see the full effect of this thing, and it's definitely going to be getting all the air that it could possibly get. And as I mentioned before, it is slanted, just like the OEM rake. You can barely tell, but right now, without the bottom supports in, it's not quite matching, but my bottom supports essentially true it up. And all they're doing as well is just making sure that the intercooler does not move this way. So they're not structurally holding it. Most of the weight is on it here. It's just kind of holding it in place where we want it to perfectly sit. So before we go take a look at the pieces that I made up, I just want to make sure and show that we have one of RAD Dan's cup and bungs welded onto the bottom of the intercooler here. This is another part that Brake Bank helped me out with. Then right here on the stock, this is the radiator mount, I believe, support mount. There's holes. Let me move my hand. You can see there's somewhat of a hole there. I believe that's where the spot weld is. I drilled it out on this side, added an M6 nut cert once again, and that is where this piece is going to pivot on and then somewhat just hold in the intercooler in place. That's all it's meant to do. It's not really holding any of the weight. All the weight is held on at the top. So these are the little mounts I came up with, and Adam at Brake Bank especially helped me out with it because I was going to make kind of an overkill setup with 2 bolt holes, but he was saying, well, if you just do one, then you can essentially have it in place and then just swing it out of the way when you're removing it. And I've already tried it once, and man, it worked out so well. So big shout out to Adam. Alright, so now we have our full-blown intercooler all mounted up, and let's just do a quick little rigidity test. It's literally as solid as the bash bar is. So I feel like, I was just thinking about it, I was like, this is almost a continuation of the bash bar in a sense, but it's just like a soft point. So now, you know, if a car does manage to go through here, I just have extra bash bars, essentially. They're just made out of aluminum. And that gets to our next section here, which you might have already noticed that we have these pretty awesome tabs that Adam made up for us. And these tabs are welded directly to the intercooler. And that's part of why it's pretty important, for us at least, in our situation with the ideas we came up with, to make sure this was pretty solid. So this is so much more beyond solid than I ever thought it would be. This is genuinely the first time I've had it completely mounted super tight. At the shop we just made sure everything fit, and I had to figure out the bottom mounts. But now with the bottom mounts and everything pretty much as hand tight as you can get it, this is pretty sick. I'm really happy with this because I just feel like this is one of the most solid OEM plus-ish setups I've seen beyond Dan's that I mentioned earlier. And yeah, I'm so in love with the ideas that we came up with. Unfortunately, we cannot mount the oil cooler just yet directly over here. There's just not enough line to do it. So I am going to be ordering new line for the oil cooler. The only problem is I cannot do it just yet because I just do not know where I'm going to have to dive the lines in. And it's just probably not a good idea till we have the turbo and, you know, everything kind of mounted up here. But that's really going to be for another video. Just wanted to show you guys essentially everything that's going to be custom mounted on the car, because I know one thing that kind of throws me for the loop a lot of the times when I'm watching installs is, you know, it gets from A to Z real quick and you're like, wait, how did that get over there? Or, you know, you have no idea if the guy zip tied it or what he did to get past it. But I just wanted to make sure and show you guys with this build the details, as I said in the first video of it. And yeah, I'm super stoked. I'm very anxious though at the same time. But I think we are in a really good spot to start off. I couldn't think of any more solid of a spot. I do know that with the way we've done things, we might need to do a little bit of custom intercooler piping. We'll find out when we get there, because once again, can't really do much until the turbo is actually within the vicinity of the engine bay. So once again, huge shout out to Brake Bank for all their help on this. And it's not like they did it for free, but they did give me the homie discount for sure. And yeah, if you need any work from them, or you know, work on your car in general, maybe a special project, they could definitely help you out. They have like extensive fabrication skills between the four guys that work there regularly. So yeah, highly recommend if you're in South Florida, check them out, as well as checking out Treadstone. And you guys know, if you've been following the channel for a while, I rarely give out shout outs to companies, like in general, but these two really are awesome people. And I just love working with them, especially so I can keep it local and keep it dope, because this is just a really cool setup. I'm so proud of it. I'm so happy with it. So big thanks to Brake Bank. Love you guys. So that's gonna be it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. I will catch you on the next one. I don't know what the next step is gonna be, but most likely it's gonna be dropping the oil pan and getting that ready to go. So we're gonna wrap it up here. Catch you on the next one. Peace.